in knowing how the quality of food is assessed using human sense organs, then this video is for you. Hello and welcome to my video on basics of sensory evaluation. This video is prepared keeping in mind the requirements of the students of food and nutrition, and also those who are interested in knowing how the quality of food is assessed in food industries. You can get some useful inputs, and for those of you who want to take up food tasting as a career, don't forget to watch till the end. The term sensory evaluation refers to the use of human sense organs as instruments for evaluation of food samples. Although many sophisticated instruments are available to assess these parameters, they cannot measure liking or disliking towards a food product. No instrument has the ability to assess all these parameters simultaneously. Moreover, it is the consumers who are going to decide whether to buy a product or not. That is why sensory evaluation becomes important. Sensory evaluation is mainly done in food industries as well as food science labs. Sensory evaluation is done for the following purposes. Quality analysis of raw ingredients. We all know that good quality ingredients are needed to prepare good quality finished products. Quality control of finished product. After a product is prepared, sensory evaluation is done before it is introduced into the market. Shelf life testing. How long a food can be preserved can be assessed using sensory evaluation. Buyback testing. If any food product receives negative feedback from consumers after it enters a supply chain, it can be tested using sensory evaluation. Sensory evaluation is the most important aspect of any new food product development. If you want to develop a new healthy product or substitute a high cost ingredient by a low cost ingredient, or want to use a new processing technique, then sensory evaluation can be done. All these have to pass a test of sensory evaluation. Therefore, if a food product gets good sensory scores, then the chances of its success in consumer market are likely to be high. In sensory evaluation, food is evaluated based on the different attributes such as appearance, odor, taste, flavor, sound and texture. Appearance, this includes a perception of size, shape, texture and color. For example, the appearance of fruits and vegetables can indicate the stage of maturity and freshness. The brown shades of bakery products such as cookies can indicate the degree and duration of heat treatment they have received. The concentration of beverages such as tea can be identified by its shade and taste. In fact, people normally judge a tea as strong or light based on its appearance. Odor. Odor is related to the temperature at which food is presented. Most of the chemical components responsible for the characteristic odor or smell are volatile in nature, and at higher temperature they get vaporized. Now these volatile compounds in the form of gas carry odor. It's easier to detect the odor of a hot tea than that of an iced tea. As soon as you enter a bakery, you can smell the pleasant odor of baked products. It is because of the volatile compounds present in bakery products. It's also the reason why we enjoy hot foods served at higher temperature than the same foods served at lower temperature. Next attribute is taste. For perception of taste, the food particles have to be dissolved in water, oil or saliva. So it's very important to make sure that the mouth is not dry when you taste food. Now taste is perceived by the taste buds. You can see the location of taste buds in different parts of the tongue on a tongue map. For example, in the front part you have taste buds responsible for sweetness, and saltiness is towards the sides and bitterness towards the end. Now as a person ages, the number of taste buds go on decreasing. So older people may not be able to detect salt, sugar or spices at a lower threshold. There are four basic tastes. Recently, they have added the fifth one, that is umami. Now, the term umami is derived from Japanese word meaning delicious. It refers to the glutamate taste. Some scientists opine that we can perceive taste all over the tongue, although the intensity of different taste is different in different areas of our tongue. Now, taste of a food is contributed by its chemical composition. For example, sweetness is contributed by sugars such as glucose, fructose, sucrose, galactose, glycols, aldehydes, or a combination of all these. Now, saltiness is because of sodium chloride or other salts, and sourness is contributed by acids such as citric acid found in citrus fruits, acetic acid in vinegar, etc. Bitterness is due to chemical compounds such as caffeine, theobromine, and phenolic compounds. The recently added umami is contributed by glutamate compounds found in meat, soya sauce, cheese, mushroom, etc. So, taste of a food can indicate its chemical composition. Now, another attribute is flavor. Flavor is a much broader term compared to taste. It is combination of taste, aroma, and mouthfeel. 75% of the flavor is contributed by aroma. Now, the sense of smell can actually affect the perception of taste. In fact, sense of smell can deceive taste. That is the reason why when we suffer from cold, everything tastes very different. Now, mouthfeel is the way food feels when it is kept in the mouth. It is in terms of the texture of a food, the astringency food, the spiciness, hot or cold in terms of temperature. Food scientists use flavor wheel to describe flavor of a food. It has attributes on the entire continuum between the basic taste, aroma, and mouthfeel. Now, flavor profile and flavor wheel are the two tools normally used to describe the flavor of a food. The next attribute is sound. Sound is perceived by our ears. It is the sound of food is normally expressed as sizzling, crunching, popping, bubbling, squeaking, dripping, exploding, cracking, etc. Now, each of these terms have their own definition. For example, when you say sizzle, it refers to the sound of a food cooking in hot oil. It's a hissing sound when frying or cooking. Although crunchy and crispy are often used interchangeably, there is a difference between the two terms. For example, when you say crunchy, it refers to a dense textured food which, when chewed with molars, undergoes a series of fractures while emitting relatively a loud, low-pitched sound. For example, carrots, nuts, etc. Now, crispy refers to a dry, rigid food which, when bitten with incisors, fractures quickly, easily, and totally, giving a loud, high-pitched sound. For example, potato chips. Some foods like apple can be both crispy and crunchy. Crispy when bitten with incisors and crunchy when bitten with molars. Now, the sound produced by a food is important because the characteristic sound produced when food is broken is influenced by its moisture content, its method of processing, such as how long and at what temperature it was deep fried. It can also indicate the freshness and ripeness of a food. Now, another parameter used in sensory evaluation is texture of a food. Texture is a complex perception perceived by a combination of kinesthetic sense, that is, the sense of touch experienced by the muscles of hand, fingers, tongue, jaw, or lips. In addition, vision and hearing also indicate the texture of a food. Who can do sensory evaluation? Sensory evaluation is done by an expert group or a panel rather than an individual. There are individual variations in sensory perceptions. For example, age of a person affects the perception of taste, as taste buds tend to decrease as a person becomes older. Studies have shown that gender also influences the perception of odor. Women undergoing menstruation and pregnant women perceive odor differently. Research has shown that genetics has an influence on a person's ability to taste food. In addition, likes and dislikes are influenced by the food habits and culture. So a panel is needed to judge the overall quality of a food. Now, depending on the purpose of sensory evaluation, there are three types of panels: trained panel, semi-trained panel and consumer panel. Trained panel members are carefully selected and trained for sensory evaluation. They are an important part of quality control and product development team. The panel consists of 6 to 8 members. Semi-trained panel members are not formally trained in sensory evaluation but are familiar with the food. Usually, semi-trained panel consists of 25 to 30 members, and this is primarily used for preliminary screening of a product. Consumer panel, it consists of consumers selected randomly and drawn from different segments of target group, giving due representation to age, gender, socioeconomic status, etc. Panel consists of 75 to 150 members and is done for assessing consumer acceptability. Screening and selection of panel members. Individuals who are working in food processing industry or in food science lab, or those who are familiar with the foods and who are willing to be part of sensory evaluation are screened for the following criteria. They should be in good health. They should not have any primary impairment of sense organs. They should not be suffering from diabetes, food allergies, color blindness or any respiratory infections including common cold, because each of these conditions adversely affects a person's ability to judge food. They should be non-smokers, as smoking can reduce the sensory perceptions. They should not have any strong likes or dislikes towards a food being tested, because strong like and dislike towards a food can make a person either overrate or underrate. They should also have the ability to communicate their sensory perceptions verbally. They should be able to identify and be able to use the right words to communicate their responses to sensory stimuli. After this preliminary screening, they are further screened with respect to sensory perceptions by the following test. 1. Matching test. In this, the samples of a sapid or a pleasant taste and common odors whose concentration is well above the threshold level are presented to the members. They are allowed to familiarize themselves, and then they are presented with a series of same samples and are asked to match each sample with the original set. If they can recognize more than 80% of the samples, they can be included in the panel. Second test is basic taste. Members are presented with samples for basic taste at super threshold level, and they should be able to get 100% correct response. Then only they can be considered to be members of the sensory evaluation panel. Odor recognition test. They are presented with odors consisting of both familiar and less familiar substances. The samples are covered in such a way that they should be able to recognize the samples based only on odor. If they are able to recognize at least 65% of the samples, then they can be included in the panel. Another test is textural characterization test. In this test, a range of products having different textures are presented to the members, and if they can describe correctly the textural properties in case of at least 65% of the samples, then they can become part of the panel. Now, those who clear the above screening tests will be given further training to improve their sensory acuity or sharpness. During this program, they are trained to detect and describe a wide range of both desirable and undesirable attributes characteristic of a food product. They are also given training on using proper terminologies to describe a product and to become familiar with the scoring technique. For this, suitable tests are devised so that they can finally select 6 to 8 members by eliminating underperformers. Where do we conduct sensory evaluation? Now, sensory evaluation is carried out in cubicles or kiosks specially designed for this purpose. There are some guidelines to be followed with respect to ambience. Rule number 1. Make sure that hygienic practices are strictly followed throughout the process, right from preparation and presentation of food and also inside the cubicles. Avoid distractions in environment such as unnecessary noise or odor. Maintain room temperature at say 22 to 24 degrees centigrade and a relative humidity of 45 to 55%. Make sure that there is proper air circulation to avoid any odor in the kiosk. Walls of the room should be preferably white so that there will not be any undue interference in evaluating the color of the sample. One more factor you have to take care is lighting. There has to be sufficiently bright light. At the same time, it has to be uniform without any shade. Every kiosk should have facility for having colored bulbs. Now, this is necessary for those tests where we need to mask the effect of light so that sample can be detected by odor or flavor alone. Now, how to present food samples for evaluation? This is one of the crucial aspects of sensory evaluation because these aspects look like common sense and we tend to overlook the effect of these factors on sensory evaluation. But this can adversely affect the quality of our results. The food sample kept for testing has to be representative of the food product in all aspects. For this, make sure that each of the ingredients used and the method of preparation has to match the food product to be tested, and all the samples kept for evaluation have to be uniform. Serving methods have to be standardized. Along with the sample, you need to keep tissue paper, suitable palate cleanser, and do not forget to keep a bowl for spitting in case the panel members do not want to consume the food product kept for tasting. Sample should appear identical and same amount of sample should be kept in all containers. For example, if you want to keep 30 ml of a beverage, it has to be same for all the samples. The order of presentation of the sample has to be randomized to avoid any bias. You are not supposed to keep the samples in either increasing or decreasing order of any attribute. If we do that, then the evaluator may judge the next sample more by guessing than by actual evaluation. Now, next factor you have to consider is labeling. Each sample should be blind labeled with a 3-digit random number code. Consistent labeling is necessary to avoid bias. There has to be uniformity with respect to font, color used in labeling, and also the position of the label on the container. Now, coming to containers, what kind of containers can we use? Same type of containers have to be used with respect to size, shape and color. It is preferable to use white or transparent containers to reduce the influence of color of the container on the perception of color of the sample. Containers should not adversely affect the odor of the food. Now, one of the common questions students face is whether to present the food sample alone or along with its accompaniment. For example, if you have developed jam, whether it has to be presented as such or along with a piece of bread. Now, it depends on the purpose for which we are conducting sensory evaluation. Is it for consumer acceptance or for quality testing? Studies have shown that for food samples which are not consumed alone, the test results may vary when kept with and without accompaniment. If kept with an accompaniment, then the accompaniment may mask the sensory properties of the food product. So, it is advisable to use an accompaniment for consumer panel for studying consumer acceptance. And in case if you are presenting the sample for quality testing by a trained panel, then you can present it as a solo sample without any accompaniment. One more important questions raised is how many samples we can keep for sensory evaluation at a time. Normally, 4 to 6 samples is considered ideal. It depends on the type of food product to be tested, and also the number of attributes you are going to test. Presentation of more samples can lead to what is described as taste fatigue, and we may not be able to judge the samples properly. So it's better to restrict to 5 to 6 samples at a time, and preferably each sample has to be presented in duplicate. Another factor you have to consider is holding time. The term holding time refers to the time gap between the preparation and sensory evaluation. Depending on the food product, the maximum and minimum time has to be predefined. Now beyond this holding time, if sample is kept for sensory evaluation, then we will get variable results. For example, a crunchy food product may become soggy, or fats may undergo rancidity, or some foods may lose freshness or undergo browning due to exposure to air. Now, is there any ideal time for sensory evaluation? Yes. Food evaluation is to be scheduled at a time during which that product is normally consumed. For example, breakfast item testing has to be scheduled in the morning. If it is a snack item, then it's better to be presented in the evenings. Mid-mornings of around 10 a.m. and mid-afternoon around 3 p.m. are considered as the best time for sensory evaluation, as people are not too hungry or too full at this time. If we carry out sensory evaluation when a person is hungry or full, we tend to either overrate or underrate the food product. Temperature. Serve the food at a temperature at which it is normally consumed. For example, hot foods have to be presented hot and cold foods have to be presented cold. There is enough evidence to show that people tend to like a food presented at a right temperature than the same food presented otherwise. If one is serving ice cream, it has to be tempered at -15 to -13 degrees centigrade for about 12 hours prior to serving, otherwise scooping of ice cream becomes difficult. One more factor we have to take care is palate cleanser. After tasting every sample, mouth has to be rinsed with a palate cleanser. Otherwise, the residual effect or the aftertaste of one sample may influence the evaluation of the next sample. Normally, plain unchlorinated water or a piece of bread is used for this purpose. But if the product has a strong flavor, then we may need some other suitable palate cleansers. For example, for spicy foods, whole milk is recommended. Astringent foods high in polyphenols such as tea, we can use dilute pectin solution of about 0.1% concentration, or a piece of melon can also be used. Interestingly, water cracker is the only palate cleanser effective across a wide range of foods. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with water cracker, what is a water cracker? It's a type of a biscuit or a cracker which is thin, hard and brittle. They are made up of flour and water and could be kept for a long time during sea voyages. It was first prepared in 1801 by Josiah Bent in Milton, Massachusetts. A cracking sound occurred during baking and hence the name. Now, how do we go about sensory evaluation? Is there any step-by-step procedure? Yes. Now, one attribute has to be evaluated at a time and then go for the next attribute. After evaluating every sample, cleanse the palate using a suitable palate cleanser and give a short break and go to the next sample. A rest period of at least say around 30 seconds between the two samples is needed. Now, these are some of the points we need to keep in mind while conducting sensory evaluation. Dear viewers, sensory evaluation, although appears to be a simple test, if the samples are not prepared and presented scientifically, then the results are not going to be valid. If you feel you have learned something new today, please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. Thank you for watching.